Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBiase, coming to you live from Revee's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. Today we're going to talk about the future of beauty, rebooting innovation and global growth at scale with Raheel, who leads innovation strategy at Estée Lauder, a $14 billion company with over 25 prestige brands in both makeup, skincare, fragrance, and hair care, sold in over 150 countries. But first, some quick stats just to kick us off. According to NPD and Revive, the beauty sales so far this year has dropped about 14% so far. That's in the prestige category. And that's down to about 3.6 billion in Q1. So that's reflecting a lot of the store closures in the United States. No massive surprises there. Makeup was down about 22%. Skincare down about 8%. Fragrance 13%. But hair care is up 13%. So let's talk about that as well. Also, skincare in the natural beauty segment is up at about 11%. We're going to be covering that in the next episode, and Raheel will touch on a little bit as well. So not surprisingly, online sales continue to jump. They've gone from about 25% pre-epidemic worldwide in January to about 48% at the end of March. So with skincare diagnostics up over about 200% according to the Revive Beauty Index. And compared to last year, for those that are wondering, in terms of what's going on with online, makeup is up 18%, skincare is up about 27%, fragrance up about 19%, and hair care, once again, way up at 41%. So with that context, Raheel, I'd like to welcome you to the program and just kind of wondering how things are going for you in New York and New Jersey these days.
Hey, Dean, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, things are surreal, right? It's definitely an interesting time,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You seem to be really busy, though.
Very busy, right? But I mean, it's interesting for me. Like the emotions are interesting, right? Like it's at the end of the day, it's a health crisis, right? And it's humbling to see how vulnerable we are as humans, right? And being in the epicenter, you kind of see, kind of the fear and anxiety is so palpable, and you see, these are your friends that are frontline workers and people that whose families are affected. So, look, it's definitely a time, it's a time to kind of like, but it's not all gloom and right. I think looking at the positive, it's amazing to also be close to kids and your spouses and your partners, and you're with them 24/7. So surreal for sure, but interesting nonetheless.
Amen to that. So tell us about your role at Estée Lauder. I'm sure it's a little strange right now. You're not commuting into downtown New York, into the city of New York, but what's your role like there?
Yeah, so I lead innovation strategy, and I also lead category strategy for the company.
Fun.
So the company it's a leader in prestige beauty, right? With iconic brands such as MAC, Estée Lauder, La Mer, Jo Malone. We're a portfolio of brands. And my job is to ensure that brands are fueling innovation in a coordinated way, and we're growing market share in a coordinated way as well, right? So, most importantly, what I'm super proud of is I have an amazing team of extremely talented individuals that are across strategy, data science, right? PhD data scientists and consumer insights. And what we really do is connect dots, understand signals to find opportunities for our brands so that we can grow market share.
Right. That sounds like a big, tall order. So at Kellogg, we talk a lot about BFSs, big, fat, and slow corporations that have learned how to kind of grow and innovate at scale, which you seem to have cracked the whip on and figured it out in a very distributed company, but with such a vast platform and a vast amount of brands and business units and geographies. How do you manage it all, and how do you choose where to play in the growth and innovation and research and ethnography? And you've got so many things on your plate. How do you prioritize it?
That's a great question, Dean. So look, I think it's super exciting to be part of a big company, but remember, it's a big company with brands, and each brand has its own DNA and right agility, fast to market, and clear understanding of like what the equity is and who the consumer that they're serving, right? So for us, the way we think about this is that we have multiple engines of innovation, right? And if you think about consumers, there's different segments, and we're different. Beauty is different to like I don't know, detergent. A consumer on average has 12 brands in her bag, right? In detergent, she has two, right? So
Right.
consumers are they have different need states and aspirations. And the way they go about those are by essentially collecting a portfolio of brands for themselves. And so that's kind of the way we approach innovation and growth as well, right? Serving the different needs of the different consumers, across the globe.
So can you just kind of touch on, a lot of people don't think about analytics in terms of innovation. It seems like you bring a lot of validation to creativity, and there's a lot of interesting things that go on in creating a beauty brand or skincare, cosmetics or hair care. A lot of emotion involved, and you also bring in the other side. Is it more of a validation of before you spend type of investment strategy?
Well, look, it's so Estee Lauder, right, is an amazingly creative company, right? As
Very.
I would say one of the best that I've obviously, seen, and I think best, probably not just in our industry and elsewhere as well. And the way I think about analytics and data is that it actually sharpens and focuses creativity, right? You got to point creativity to where the winds are blowing.
Right.
And so that's kind of the way, in my mind, right? It's about, creativity and data as equal partners, where one catalyzes the other, so that you can unlock both the magic, which I call like consumer love, right? And the money, right? Which is about purchase and repurchase. So, and the key magic, I think, or the way I think about the framing of all this is, right, that you've got to sharpen and focus creativity with data across the entire marketing value chain, from strategy to innovation choices to planning for volume, concept, campaign creation, but also measurement, right? And then how do we enable this like ecosystem that feeds and informs our creative geniuses to essentially, continue to kind of like optimize where they're being creative.
Right.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen this not only in our, I think we're amazing at this. I'm sure you've seen this in other, talking to entrepreneurs or other folks as well, maybe in the Silicon Valley area as well.
Yeah, we had Amazon/Zappos on the last episode, and a massive amount of data science and emotional science that they use. But I don't see the kind of the different approach you've taken in terms of innovation. I don't see that enough in large companies. I see a lot of people running around and doing stuff. It just depends if innovation is decentralized or centralized, and you tend to be able to dance in both of those, which is great. A lot of interest. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of Q&A on what are the trends in the beauty sector that you're excited about. So rather than bird dogging you into one or two, what are you excited about?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that a little bit. It's funny, Dean, as you were talking about the previous topic, a quick story came to my mind. I was in one of the meetings with one of our, super creative folks, and this individual said to me, "Raheel, it seems like you're trying to dissect a song. You can't dissect a song." And I'm like, just give me a few days, spend some time with me, and I'll tell you, yes, you can dissect the song. But anyway,
you take all the fun out of the music. Oh gosh.
Exactly. Well, you gotta, anyway, there's science to be.
You have a good personality for it. I've seen much more disruptive personalities that probably wouldn't work well.
Anyhow, so you're talking about what are we seeing in trends, right? As you were we were kind of going there. So yeah, look, I think part of, by the way, analytics is we leverage AI to mine millions of conversations, right, across social listening platforms, ratings and review platforms. And what that does is it helps us to understand trends that are like accelerating, and also understand how long the trends will last, right? So what's super interesting is what we see, obviously, particularly with COVID, what we're biggest learning is that the trends have accelerated, right? It's not like they're new trends, actually. We see healthification of skincare happening a lot, right? Skinification of makeup happening a lot. I mean, what we're seeing is skincare as self-care now, where consumers are finding regimens, as a way of almost like, a ritual that's an escapism, right? Like this like ritual is almost like, helping them with their like sort of like mental wellness as well. And then obviously sustainability, right, was huge before and actually now is evolving to sustainability in the context of safe, and trust. So we see that evolving as well. So Look, I think what this kind of crisis is reminding us is that environment and well-being of our society, they're all interconnected, right?
Right.
And we know initially when we tracked signals daily, and what we saw was, some of the trends were kind of like going down, the ones I just talked about, but they only went down for like 2-3 weeks when the paranoia and anxiety was high. And then we saw them rebounding, actually going even higher to, January, December kind of timeframe. So, I think long story short, the learning is that it's an acceleration of trends, and Estee Lauder Companies is very, very perfectly situated with our brands and our skincare, and what we see, the claims that are rooted in science, noticeable benefits, and that's really what Estee Lauder Companies and our brands excel at. So we feel super excited to be kind of at this point where we are going to serve the trends and needs of our consumers.
Yeah, you've got a nice platform, nice portfolio. I want to come back to the skinification of beauty, because we definitely get the surge in interest and concern in skincare. We're seeing that at companies like Raheel, where people are very concerned about their skin itself. We had Naveen Jain on a while back, and we talked about people are much more inquisitive about what they put on their skin and as much as they put in their body. So we talked a lot about supplements and things like that, and how they, kind of can interact, and the whole clean beauty thing, which we can get to in a second. But take me back to that comment, that skinification of cosmetics. What does that mean? If you unwrap that one.
Yeah, look, I think, by the way, you were kind of talking about stats and PD stats, et cetera, earlier,
Yeah.
and you were macro in nature, right? You were talking about makeup, but the way we think about the world is, it's not, makeup is too broad, right? You kind of have to look at granularity, and that's where insights come out, right? So when you look at makeup, yes, you quoted some of the numbers, it's down, but when you look at the subsegment of makeup, which is really about, skin loving makeup, right? Or you could say skin friendly makeup, where you have, hybridization of skincare benefits that are coming from makeup. That's really where consumers want to go. And so that's really what I mean when I said skinification of makeup. It's really like a way to kind of describe it, to kind of make sense of it. But that's really where the consumers are going,
we're showing that continue to go up. Just looking back at the data here, up 11% in terms of the natural beauty skincare, but part of that also cosmetics is. You're right. So let's kind of dig into that. The whole ingredient trend and the clean tech trend, and not just for cosmetic skincare, healthcare. It's for food. It's for all types of different genres of consumer goods. What are you guys doing there?
Yeah. So. A lot, right? So obviously, if we think about where, particularly also, I was talking earlier about COVID and kind of like safe and trusted beauty, right? Ingredient transparency is an important area, one of the important areas. And we have an amazing amount of actions underway. If you look at Aveda as an example, which is one of our amazing brands, Aveda talks about, ingredients, natural ingredients in a very clear way. But what's important, Dean, is that, it's not enough to just talk about ingredients. You have to link ingredients with the benefit that they provide, right? That energy together is really what matters. And so, so that's kind of one area, which is an important area. Go ahead, you were gonna.
No, I was just agreeing. It totally makes sense. Most of them don't do that connected tissue. They just list it and going, "Hey, aren't we great? It's all natural."
That's right.
And I often look at that stuff and go, "I don't even know what that means."
Exactly. And I think the other thing to think about here is that, again, our analytics, social listening platforms are global in nature, right? So what we used to see in this area that we're talking about was that it was mostly relevant in Germany and California. But again, while I was talking earlier that COVID accelerated things, and really now what we're seeing is consumers across demographics, across the world, are kind of talking about this, right? And again, this link of, the world in this world, right? Like well-being of our society, environment, noticeable, effective products, right? And also like hero products that are high in quality. That's the intersection of what we're seeing as to where, all this is kind of like evolving to or kind of like collapsing towards.
It's going from kind of the niche markets to more mainstream mass market consumer. Do you see that almost there or still got a ways to go?
So I wouldn't say niche to mass. I would maybe reframe it a little bit, right? So if when you talk niche, people think indie brands, right? And indie brands, obviously, come in beauty and other industries as well. But, Dean, what's interesting is that when we look at data, right, we see that indie brands do a good job of driving trial, right? Because they have interesting marketing stories.
Exactly.
But they don't do a good job of driving repeat. And that's where, high quality innovation, companies, when our company has, a long history of creating high quality heroes that are, almost like, popular than many of the brands. Like we have individual hero products that are more popular than brands. And the reason for that is because they are high quality and they have loyalty and they drive repeat. And by the way, repeat is where profits are, right? Trial is where investments are. So actually, to some extent, what indie brands do for us is they bring more consumers into our industry. And then after that first use, when the repeat isn't there, the consumers come to places, brands, products that are higher in quality. And that's where we see actually, being very strong at and continuing to, have a lot of runway ahead of us in terms of growth.
Yeah, and you've also acquired some indie brands along the way. What were once called indie brands. What we're seeing with some of the there's been a couple studies out. I forgot which one of our partners it was, but also at Revive that during the epidemic there has been, because online behavior has spiked so high in some categories, the skincare concerns are 200, 300, 400% increases. And it's temporary, but it's allowed a lot of these indie brands to come in and spend their money wisely, or the mid-tier brands, or even the large brands, and gain share and grab interest because people are in a very unique time. And one of the surveys said that people may not switch back to their old brands. So it's been an interesting time to invest and spend money if you have good analytics, like you said. And so what do you think is going to happen on the retail side? We've got a massive, lockdown around the world. China opened up with some record sales in luxury goods and cosmetics and things. As it ripples around the world, economy by economy, opening up. What do you think we're going to see in the beauty sector in terms of consumer behavior?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I think it's interesting. You touched on China's opening up, and what we see is this idea of revenge shopping, right?
Right.
Consumers that have been kind of like waiting, and look, Dean, if I think about if we just logically think about what's happening, right? Let's just take the U.S. and where we are. Basically, people are not going out of their homes, which means that they're not spending money on, I don't know, movie tickets or restaurants or vacations. So yes, there's an economic contraction that we're seeing and will happen and it will affect a certain percent of the population. But remember, we are affordable luxury, right? And when you have money that you haven't spent or you're not able to spend in luxuries, you have that extra disposable income that you have available to you if you're in this space where, economically where you can, you still have a job where you can afford it. And what happens is that's when consumers start to go into beauty and more specifically in the things that we just talked about earlier, trends of skincare with noticeable benefits. What we also see right now is there's a little bit, if you think about the Maslow's hierarchy, right? At the bottom of the pyramid you have safety, right? Which a lot of consumers are at, and that applies to beauty as well, right? Consumers are buying safe cleansers, for example, safe moisturizers, and we talked about that already. But they're also going all the way to the top of the pyramid, right? Self-realization and self-actualization, because that's what keeps them kind of going. Otherwise, the walls cave in, if you don't leave the house and if you don't kind of pamper yourself.
Right.
Right. And these products allow you to escape. So anyway, so that's kind of one big thing that we see. you touched a little bit on, I think, other markets as well. And by the way, what, the positive of all this is that, like digital acceleration has happened, right? And what we see is digital acceleration happening in emerging markets and with consumers that traditionally wouldn't be on e-commerce platform.
Exactly.
But what it does is it actually makes the consumers who traditionally could not participate because of channel reasons are now able to participate, right? So think about that. Like you basically have a bigger bucket of consumers now who are now in the industry wanting to, participate, which may be in emerging markets such as, I don't know, APAC, Asia Pacific, or whatever have you. They weren't able to because they didn't have access to stores. And same is happening in the US as well, right? We're seeing not just younger consumers buying online, but also older demographics kind of getting a bit more okay with replenishment online of their hero products, as an example.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's data behind that. The laggard sector of the baby boomer population, they would think nothing to jump in the car, run to the store, and the behaviors have changed. And depending on the category, digital has been accelerated by anywhere from 3 to 5 to almost 10 years, depending on which category. So all the digital guys, all my friends in Silicon Valley are happy about that. They say, yeah, we've been waiting for the final push. I think it's just one component of it. I've just been reading some chats popping up here. I'm going to ask my question first because it's related, but just how do you see technology playing into the beauty sector, both in-store, online? The question was about technology and tools, different things that you're going to see happen over the next few years.
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, I already talked about technology to some extent, right? Because when people think technology, you go to stores, but technology, I talked about, artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is technology to understand consumers better, right? That's right. A very, very important technology. So that's gonna, that's where it starts from, I think, which is technology to understand consumers better. Then you have technology, which I think the question probably refers to, is when we think about, when you're on an e-commerce kind of an experience, how does technology enable you, one, to understand you better, right? Because
right.
You want to offer an assortment that's relevant to you. And by the way, personalization is a big trend as well. We kind of always talk about that in the industry and in the world. But really at the heart of it, Dean, personalization is about, making consumers feel included, right? And giving her or him the right product at the right time. And technology is what enables that, right? Whether that technology is almost like matching you with your need that you have at that moment, for when you need it, right? That's an example of technology, and we're doing amazing amounts of work to be able to serve our customers there. And then kind of going into technology as it applies to in store, absolutely. Look, in the new normal, there's going to be expectations of like touchless, experiences such as dispensing or touchless shopping, right? And
right.
We already have amazing amounts of experience here, because remember, in Asia, particularly in China, things were already a little bit on the touchless side. And so our brands such as Estée Lauder and Clinique, which has technologies here, Clinique actually is one of the brands that even invented this idea of the idea of personalization with the first Clinique, computer that matched you and your skin tone with your shades. So we have a lot of historical experience here. We have a lot of, technology that we're investing behind, as it pertains to virtual try-on. So yeah, and there's partnerships in place with, companies that are in Silicon Valley that enable that, but others as well across our network of innovation that goes from Israel all the way to California.
And so you guys were pretty early on trying different mirror technology and things. What we're seeing at Revive with a lot of the retail partners reopening the stores is it's all going to handheld. Use your own phone, take your own selfie, fill out your own surveys, get away from the devices in store. Their platform is very agnostic. It'll power anything in store, but we're seeing a massive trend, kind of like Asia. I don't think you can follow Asia for everything because many of these countries don't have guaranteed employment and things like that. But one thing we can follow is the massive use of cell phone usage in retail for everything from skin analysis to personalization. But just digging in on personalization, since you brought it up there, we see two types. One is you do a skin analysis, you quickly go from 60 SKUs down to maybe 6 that are relative to him or her, right? And it makes the shopping experience easier to choose, whether you're in store talking with a beauty rep or whether you're online. But what about personalization down to the actual ingredient level? There are a few indie brands that are trying it. I'm not sure how well it scales, but where it'll take a bunch of ingredients and make something, quote unquote, more personalized for me. Do you see that as a good trend, or?
Look, I think, Dean, formulation science isn't as simple as, it's almost, think of it this way. It's almost like when you go to a restaurant and you go at a Michelin 5-star, restaurant, and the chef is making and mixing the ingredients with the right texture, chemistry, right time, right? That flavor is different to, maybe, I don't know, I'm going to give a bad example here, but maybe you trying to like follow a YouTube recipe of like, I want to make, whatever pasta with these 3 ingredients, right? So I'm maybe a bad analogy, but it's more than just, yes, ingredients are important. And I talked about that, which is ingredient transparency, and consumers want transparency, right? They want to make sure that they're taking care of their skin and their body. But there's science, and there's, we have, PhD scientists that are understanding ingredients. We have PhD scientists that are understanding the interaction of those ingredients when you put it in the formula and you mix it in the right way. We have, PhD scientists that are understanding how those then ingredients, when they're, the cocktail, when it's put together, how it affects the wrinkle on your skin, or the plumpness of your skin. So, if you, for example, I'll give you an example, and maybe this is maybe for those who use mascara, right? Because it's very easy to kind of like think about it this way. I don't know, Dean, if you use mascara, but even in mascara,
not lately.
So as someone who uses mascara, if you change the brush of your mascara, liquid, and if you put another brush in there, that performance completely changes. So it's not, it's a complicated math, right? And I'm trained as a chemical engineer, so that's kind of how we, you go and you understand the basic fundamentals of how chemicals interact. But essentially, yes, ingredient as a trend, super important, but it's not going to be about, let me just plug this into a machine, inject 5 chemicals together or whatever have you. There is going to be some expertise and scientists and professionals that are with the ones that we have in our company that are doing this in an excellent way to create high quality products is what's going to be needed.
So you think it'll trend up or just be a fad?
I mean, look, I think it will evolve. I think the trend is here to stay of like ingredient, right? And again, connecting ingredient with the benefit, but it has to drive noticeable results. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. And,
or the perception of it, because it allows these. I've talked to a couple of the brands, ones in the UK that's pretty well funded, but they're just emerging. They're not even indie yet. But yeah, the whole concept of that allows you to connect. Just like doing a skin analysis on your phone, it allows you to create a relationship with the consumer, so they may feel like it's more personalized, whether you're giving them a SKU unit or something custom itself. Maybe there's a hybrid model coming.
It goes back to what I was talking about, right? Repeat is what matters, right?
Right, exactly.
Trial, interesting, but trial isn't sufficient to drive profits.
Yeah, and people are copying the subscription model, and those tend to have a high degree of, a mild degree of, attrition, let's just say. So that's a whole new thing to monitor. Well, we appreciate a lot of your insights and coming on. I know you've been totally jammed and keeping the company growing. What you have any parting thoughts for everybody, and just little words of wisdom before we go?
Yeah, look, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. This has been awesome. It's look, I guess parting, I'm not, I'm humbled for you to ask me for wisdom, but I guess what I'll say is that, look, we'll get through this pandemic. I think that's kind of right. We're only like less than 100 days in, right? If you think about it, and humans, especially Americans, us, right? Like we have this great gift to dream big, right? But I think what's important is that we continue to inspire others to dream big as well. Over here, the longest surviving species, one that is most collaborative, right? And not that we're talking about survival here, species survival here, but the point I'm making is that, dreaming big, collaborating, learning together, which is really what we do in my team and at Estée Lauder companies. I think that same spirit, I think, is relevant for just kind of like, this current pandemic that we're in, or this world in general as well. So that's kind of like the rules that we live by. Hopefully that's inspiring to others as well. It's inspiring to me, and it's interesting to get your thoughts on that as well.
I'm going to slip one last question in just to be nice to the viewer. How do you keep your organization or the units more nimble these days? Because you are, 14 billion is a big number. Just quick answer.
Yeah, look, I think it starts with making sure that agility is a process, right? You gotta like create an organization, process that is agile, so that you can, like we did, right, move within days and weeks to completely change your supply chain and invent a new formula that makes hand sanitizers. We're so proud of that, right?
Yep.
And we didn't have hand sanitizers before, this happened. But now we're here, providing sanitizers to doctors and frontline workers and employees. So it's about making sure that your processes are built with agility, and that's a whole hour of conversation, Dean. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll take that one up next time. But you said just the opposite of what most people think. Most people think agility is disorganization, and it's not. You need a process. I love that. And I want to thank you for doing and responding and doing as much as you guys could during the pandemic. So really appreciate that. So next up, we have on the next episode, the CEO of Credo, which is one of the largest clean makeup, I'll just call it a store on the planet. And Raheel, thanks for coming. Really appreciate your time, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dean.
Cheers.